Hey ISG, this is Aaron. I want to do a quick video today on a topic that actually deserves some attention. So typically when you see the pomp and swagger that you get on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook about gun guys doing gun guy stuff, it's almost functionally useless. There's almost nothing in there that you can take away and apply to an actual defensive situation. Almost all of that is what we decry as pageantry, right? So what we're going to talk about today is actually a physical, hands-on hard skill that you really actually need to cultivate, and some of the understanding behind it. That is the malfunction clearance. Okay, so malfunctions happen. If you're like most people who carry a defensive handgun, you probably have a modern autoloader. It's probably a Glock, just playing the statistics, and it's probably not going to malfunction. However, a lot of things can play into that. Now, depending on whether or not you buy quality ammunition, rotate that ammunition out of stock. That is to say, if you're chambering around every day as you get up, or you clear your pistol to store it when you train or things like that, eventually those rounds are going to wear down and they can malfunction. Even Glocks have issues with hard primers and things like that. So depending on the stock of ammunition in the lot, you may end up having malfunctions. It's just a part of life. So what we're going to talk about is the three main types of malfunctions that we see. Hang on a second here. The three main types of malfunctions that we see, which are the failure to fire, the type 1, the stovepipe, type 2, and then the double feed, which is the type 3. Now this is all older knowledge and it may have some new names, but this works. It's very simple, it works, and it kind of follows our basic model for complexity, because if you go back to understanding emergencies, we use the same general idea. So your type 1 is your fast-moving emergency that you have to solve right there on the spot. Type 2 is a little bit more of a expanded emergency that requires a little bit more resourcefulness over a longer timeline and isn't directly threatening you, and then the type 3 is the more complicated ones. So same thing with our pistol malfunctions. The failure to fire, for example, that is when you are pointing in on your target and you get the click instead of a bang, right? Now, when that happens, there's nothing that can warn you ahead of time, right? There's no kinesthetic movement of the pistol that tells you, hey, a type 1 is about to occur. So this is the one we should probably train on the most, and that is when you get that click, you immediately remedy that problem, okay? And the way that we do that is we tap, we flip, and we rack. Now the reason that I do it that way, I rotate my pistol outboard because anything that's caught in the chamber is going to fall with gravity's assistance. This isn't a huge deal with the type 1, but as we move into the type 2s, you'll see where this comes more into its own, because that's usually caused by an obstruction in the breech, okay? So we'll work through that. But that's what we want to do automatically. When we push out and we get that click, we tap the magazine to make sure it's seated. That's the number one cause of type 1 malfunctions, is that you didn't seat your magazine correctly. Left it like this, went to chamber it, nothing went in the breech. And then rack and flip it and bring it back up. Now there's other ways of doing this. You can leave it out front and do all this stuff here, but the reason that I don't personally like that is if you're using a handgun, this is a defensive tool for close range altercations, right? And if you're in a building, there's maybe another person that you didn't see or something like that. If your pistol's out here, believe it or not, this 2 feet makes a big difference in terms of reaction and retention. So I personally would prefer to bring my pistol in, work from in a closer space, so I have less travel and more economy of motion when I'm going through these. So the second type, that is the stovepipe. I'm going to set that up really quick. Stovepipe is when a failure to extract has occurred. So that means that your pistol hasn't expelled brass. So when that happens, you will get a kinesthetic feel with this, right? And sometimes it takes a lot of rounds downrange before you can really tell, but you can feel the weight shift slightly rearward, okay? Because our main axis on an autoloader is right over the magazine. So you get used to feeling how it sits, and over the course of tens of thousands of rounds, you will get a feel for that. So when it is locked back, you'll get both the visual, if you're following up and following through with your shots, and you'll get a little bit of a tactile feel that this pistol has not cycled completely or effectively. Now, again, with this one, exact same motion as the type 1 malfunctions. Tap, flip, rack, okay? And then get back on your target as quickly as you can. Again, all the same principles apply about retracting back into our workspace. I hate that term, but it applies. So retract back into your workspace, perform your malfunction drill, and then push back out and continue. Now, the other thing that we should mention is that anytime you're having a problem like this, you should not be standing still. You should absolutely be training to move. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because for the purpose of the instruction, you don't need to really see it. We'll do that live for you so you can see kind of the combination of physiological skills that comes into play when you're doing that. Now, so the last malfunction type, being the most severe, is the double feed, and that's where you have an incomplete extraction and the spent cartridge does not come out of the breech. Now, simultaneously, your magazine does its job correctly and pops another round up. So you have one in the breech and you have one in the magazine, and the pistol does its job and loads that second one in there. Now, the problem with this is because of the way that cartridge is sitting in the throat there, it's very difficult sometimes for the extractor to get a grip on that and throw the brass, okay? That's a normal operating procedure for the pistol. So because that doesn't happen, what you're relying on is pulling this back far enough to where it just sits freely in there, okay? Now this one is still halfway in the magazine. So the reason we do this procedure this way is because that's not uncommon. It's really common for that cartridge to get caught up in the magazine there. So what we're gonna wanna do, strip this magazine out if we can, all right, as quickly as we can, and throw it away, okay? Then we're gonna rack it 3 times, and then we're gonna take our reload, and we're gonna reload the pistol, okay? What we're gonna worry about with this is that there's either an entire magazine of bad ammunition, or that the magazine itself is failing. So what we want to do at that point is give up on it, get a new one, a fresh one into the fight as quickly as we can, and then continue to work our normal drills. Now, if we're still having problems after that, it's time to start thinking about another plan. And that means moving out of the area and getting somewhere safe, acquiring a different weapon. Just shift your focus to where it takes it off the firearm and onto the tactical environment. Again, tactical is kind of a buzzword, but it does apply, right? You want to be using tactics. Tactics, judgment, and awareness are the 3 legs of the stool that keep you on your fight, or in your fight. So with that in mind, those are the 3 types of malfunctions and how we categorize them, how we perform them. Go out and get some rote with these, okay? This is repetitions. Just get out there and get the reps. When you start feeling comfortable with these, then start adding some side steps, right? We'll do just a type 1. Okay, a side step. And from there, you can actually start moving off the edge and continuing to move, and then get to a position where you can engage your target, work your problems from there. If you start doing these things, this is a skill that will help you in a fight, okay? And keep in mind that not all situations are going to be the same. So we'll go over some more advanced malfunction clearance drills in a future video. Hopefully, for this time, this answers some of the questions you may have had about malfunctions and handguns. And as always, thank you for watching.